we have come to the final teller of the evening. I'm so sad, but I'm actually thrilled. This has been a really wonderful night. Can we just give it up for all the tellers? While we're at it, a huge shout out to Space. You guys have been outstanding. We've had the best time working with you guys and making this happen. So here we are, our last performer. So similar to Jill discovering Damian Morris while watching PBS, I discovered our next teller listening to NPR. You know, they call them driveway moments. You're listening to Be Easy and you can't get out of the car. Well, I couldn't get out of my garage. And this was a little unusual because it was a program on Be Easy in front of a live audience. They're singing. I'm in my car. I'm singing by myself. I'm smiling ear to ear. I'm thinking, this is so weird. Why am I singing? And I get the guy's name. I get the name of his organization that he founded. It's called Chicago Circle Singing. I go inside, I Google him, I stalk him, I DM him, I text him, finally, he gets back to me. And guess what? He is here this evening. So, give it up for Davin Youngs.
tumnare tumboya tumnare numakune sunaya kumare tumboya tumbe tumade tumboya noya kumasle tumote osaga numbe chambale fumbare kumba tumbale kumba tumda dum da da dum da 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 dum. Keep going. Can you sing and listen? Da 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 da. Keep it going, all right? In 2015, I packed up my things. I kissed my partner Scott and our little pit bull Nico goodbye. And I got on a plane and left Chicago and made my way to upstate New York. Da 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 doom, da 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 doom, da da da. I was going to a place called Omega, da da da, or the Omega Institute. Dum dum male dum ma. The workshop was called Circle Songs. Da 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 doom, da 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 doom, da. See, Omega was like an old school spiritual wellness center, a remnant of the 1970s when people started to gather in the West around Eastern traditions like Qigong, meditation, mindfulness, yoga, doom, da da. But I wasn't going to do any of those things. Da 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 doom. I was going to sing. I'll never forget the first day of the workshop. I walked into this giant gathering space. I didn't know anyone, but there were about 190 people from all over the globe. And standing at the center of this circle was the one and only Bobby McFerrin. This crowd's old enough to know. 1980s icon, don't worry, be happy, Bobby McFerrin standing in the center of the circle like some sort of musical shaman. Dum, da 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 da, dum, da da. He was using his voice like I had never heard before, improvising. At one point he sounded like a flute. Dum, Next, he would sound like a trombone. Wah, 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 wah. He was making up parts. Da, 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 doom, da, de, dum, da. This is for you over here. Da, de, do, da. Sing that out for me. Keep going. Da, de, do, da. And before I knew it, you sound good. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Everyone was singing. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Everyone was singing except for me. I had a lump in my throat the size of a softball. I couldn't make a sound. I was so overcome with emotion, the sound of all of these collective voices singing together. It was powerful. I'd never heard anything quite like it before. Actually, that's not true. It was very familiar. I knew this experience from childhood at church. See, I'm from a very small town in southwestern Michigan. Population 3,500 people. And my father, the Reverend David Youngs, was a minister at a local United Methodist church, a rural community. On any given Sunday, there were only 50 to 75 people in that sanctuary, but boy, did they sing. And some of my earliest memories of singing were singing in the congregation, singing in community. I loved it. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. I had a natural talent from a young age. And so what happened to me is what happens to so many pastors' kids. I quickly got thrust up on stage. At first, I was just lending my voice to the community, but before I knew it, I was leading them all in collective song. It was an incredible experience. I was amazed at how my voice could inspire the whole room to sing more robustly. By the age of 11, I convinced my parents to get me voice lessons. They found the only woman in our town who had a master's degree in vocal performance, shout out to Stacy Rose, who agreed to work with a prepubescent boy who loved to sing. I marched into my very first lesson and declared to her, I want to be on Star Search. At that point in my life, I was convinced there was no greater calling than to meet Ed McMahon and follow in the footsteps of Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera. She listened politely and then quickly handed me this yellow book of sheet music called 24 Italian Songs and Arias. I was pretty sure this book wasn't going to fulfill my pop fantasies. But I love to sing, and I was totally game to do whatever she advised me to do, but before you knew it, I fancied myself an opera singer. I unveiled myself as an opera singer at the middle school talent show. By the time my voice changed, I could make a pretty heroic baritone sound. And throughout high school, I traveled all over the state of Michigan, performing and competing in operatic competitions. Bella siccome un angelo in terra pellegrino, fresca siccome il giglio che s'apre sul mattino. I even wrote in my senior high school yearbook, I wrote that you were going to see me on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera. I then made my way to the Oberlin Conservatory of Music, where I pursued and received a degree in vocal performance. I fully intended to be an opera singer. That is until graduation rolled around. Something became true for me in that moment. See, singing had always been my love, but it hadn't always been my joy. There's more to this story. I wasn't just a kid from a small town with a talent. I was a queer kid in a small town who happened to have a father for a minister. I learned from a very young age that it was not safe to disclose the truth of who it was that I was. Through some weird irony, I actually found safety on stage, hiding in plain sight. If I could just perform big enough, if I could just be loud enough, if I could just impress enough, people seemed to love me. And that seemed like a much better alternative than the honesty and the authenticity that potentially would cause me to face rejection. And by the time I was ready to graduate Oberlin, I couldn't do it anymore. I had to figure out how to reconcile all of these years not really being who I was. I had to figure out how to let go of Davin the opera singer, Davin the performer, and settle into Davin the person. And so I did what a lot of us do when we graduate from college. I sort of gave up the dream. I moved to Chicago. I got a 9-to-5 job, very responsible, pushing paper. Yes, we still used paper then. And I spent most of my 20s desperately trying to find how it was that I could show up in the world and use my voice in a way that felt true to me. I did some professional work outside of my 9-to-5 job. I sang in professional choirs. I taught voice lessons. I did church work, but none of it felt really right. And then at the age of 28, I met a teacher named Jeannie Levetri. Now, Jeannie is the creator of something called somatic voice work, and she single-handedly changed the trajectory of my life. She was the first person to say to my face, "I'm not impressed with how big and loud you can sing." Specifically, she said to me, "You don't know your voice. If you knew your voice, you wouldn't push it so much." I knew she was right. She helped me understand the function of my voice in my body. She helped me understand the ways in which I had built up an armor, an artifice, a protection that took up residency in my muscles, in my tissue, in my ligament, in my cartilage. And she helped me pull it away to find something more free, something more easy, something more me. After 2.5 years of working together, I was making sounds like I had never made before. I felt good, I felt free, I felt easy, I felt weird, but there was still a big problem. I didn't know what to sing. I'd spent all those years working on opera, sacred music, a little musical theater, some jazz, but none of it really felt like how I wanted to show up artistically and creatively in the world. And I had heard in the somatic voice work community about this workshop with Bobby McFerrin. The premise of the workshop was improvisation. And I thought, well, I don't know what the hell to sing, so let's go make it up and see what we can find out. Which brings us to that fated day. Standing in that room with all of those people, I can now see so clearly why I was overcome with emotion. There were so many layers to what was unfolding within me. Grief. Grief for that little boy who thought he had to perform and didn't feel safe enough to sing. Disappointment for all the years I had been making sounds that were simply to impress others and didn't honor the truth of my body, my heart, my mind, and my spirit. Joy at being reconnected with this collective singing experience that was so familiar, so life-giving, so a part of my story. Awe. Why do humans sing together? Why does it feel so damn good? Why does it seem like it can change the world? And wonder. I realized during that day that if you would have taken a microphone and held it up to any of the individual voices in the room, you would have heard that some of them were amazing singers, and some of them weren't so good. But when we sang together, it didn't matter. We sounded incredible. We made a beautiful noise. By the second day, I found my voice. I was able to contribute, and for the rest of the week, I was singing nonstop. If I wasn't singing with the big group with Bobby, I was in some breakout group at the lake, and the yard, the cafeteria, the bathroom. I was by myself singing all the time, experimenting. What sort of weird sounds can I make? How can I improvise? How can I create? What sort of music lurks within me? And by the end of the week, I had learned that there were circle singing communities all over the world. I was told that in every major city, you could find a group of people that gathered in this way, in this form. And so I hurried back to Chicago, destined to find my new people, only to discover they weren't here. So my friends, I did what every good pastor's kid does. In adulthood, I found and created my own community. My own church, if you will, my church of singing, Chicago Circle Singing. The very first gathering was in the autumn of 2015. I pulled together some of my favorite performers and some of my favorite singers, and I very amateurly led them in games through improvisation, circle singing, and circle songs. It was magic. It was everything that I hoped for. But I learned quickly in subsequent gatherings that those performers and those singers, they weren't going to be the people that kept coming to these gatherings. It turns out that the people who kept coming to the gatherings weren't necessarily the people who thought of themselves as singers, but they were people who loved to sing. People who had been told from a young age that they didn't have a voice. People who loved to sing as a child but had somehow gotten disconnected from their voice as an instrument. People who prioritized community, play, connection, embodiment, fun. It is now 10 years later, 2026. With the exception of a pandemic-long hiatus, this community still exists. And I have to tell you, I used to struggle for years to get 15 people in the room. And now, since we picked back up in 2023, something happened. It took off. On any given second Wednesday of the month in the South Loop neighborhood of Chicago, you will find 100 to 150 strangers gathering together in community in spontaneous song for one of the most magical nights of our month. And we are a strange group of weirdos. Young, old, black, white, brown, gender non-conforming, unabashedly queer. We stand together, we sing together in love, we sing together in community, we sing together in connection, we dance, we move our bodies, we are there for each other. And at the center of the circle, you'll often find me. Me singing for that little boy who felt like he had to perform and didn't feel safe enough to sing. Me singing as this grown man who's done a hell of a lot of work to heal those wounds and show up as authentically and freely as possible. Me singing for everyone in the room, giving them a permission slip to be exactly where it is that they are on their voice journey. We sing because that's what humans do. We sing because we find connection, we find community, and maybe naively, we believe that that connection and that community can change not only our city, but maybe, just maybe, the world. Dum, da 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 da, dum, da 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 da, dum, da 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 da, dum. We stand, da 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 da, dum, da 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 da. Keep going. Da, dum ba dum de dum da, dum da dum de dum da. This is your part over here. Dum da dum de dum da, dum da dum de dum da. Keep going. Do 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 do. Yeah, put your hands together. Dum da le o, keep